Apple's WWDC event is now less than 3 weeks away, and I personally believe that we'll be seeing at least 2 M4 Macs get revealed, which I know completely goes against the leaks from Mark Gurman, who says that the first M4 Macs won't come until the fall, but the more I dig into the details, the more convinced I get that M4 Macs will launch next month. Getting started with Mark Gurman's position, he says that both the Mac Studio and Mac Pro won't get updated until the middle of 2025, about 9 months after the M4 Max MacBook Pro will get released this fall, which to me makes absolutely zero sense because the current M2 Ultra Mac Studio and Mac Pro are already slower than the M3 Max MacBook Pro that's been out since last year in multiple tasks because it came with huge graphics advancements, including hardware ray tracing. It even beats the M2 Ultra at 8K editing, which doesn't even support ray tracing, which is crazy. So if you're telling me that Apple will leave the Mac Studio and Mac Pro with outdated M2 Ultra hardware for an additional 9 months after the brand new M4 Max comes out, I honestly don't believe it because the M4 chip in the new iPad Pro is much faster than we expected compared to the M3, so we know for a fact that the M4 Max will destroy the M2 Ultra. GeekerOne's review of the M4 chip revealed massive advancements in memory, bandwidth, and latency, about 8% overall IPC improvement, not including SME support in Geekbench, and clock speed increases for the performance cores, the E cores, and the GPU cores, which means that the rest of the M4 family of chips will see huge improvements, especially the M4 Ultra. On top of that, iFixit confirmed that the 8GB M4 iPad Pro actually comes with 2 6GB RAM modules, so it secretly has 12 gigs total, which confirms that the base M4 Max will finally have more RAM, up to 256 gigs of RAM on the M4 Ultra. Now I know some of you are holding out for WWDC, hoping that Apple will at least give us a Mac Studio update with the M3 Ultra chip, but I can guarantee you that this absolutely won't happen for a couple of very good reasons. But first, I want to show you guys the world's first all-in-one projector, the Boom 3 from our sponsor Aurzen, which combines a projector, a Wi-Fi connected TV stick, and a 36-watt premium Bluetooth speaker all in one. Setup is super easy with AI autofocus and AI keystone correction, with a high-quality native 1080p projection with 500 ANSI lumens of brightness to watch anything from its preloaded Smart OS apps, combined with the 2.2 channel 3D Dolby Atmos speakers, which you can use as a Bluetooth speaker at any time. So check it out using the link in the description below. The most obvious reason is that Apple would never release an old gen M3 Ultra chip after already revealing the brand new M4 family chip architecture. It's obviously a terrible marketing move, so it would never happen. But going further, I believe that Apple wants to stop making M3 chips as soon as possible because they have some sort of a contract with TSMC, who makes their chips, or if not a contract, then a general plan to stop all the production lines of the M3 chips and move over to making M4 family chips. And I believe that contract ends in the spring of 2025, which is exactly when the last M3 Mac is rumored to be replaced with the M4 chip, which is the current M3 MacBook Air, according to Mark Gurman, which I fully agree with. But why would Apple do this? Well, because the M3 chips are all based on a custom N3B process node from TSMC, which I believe was only created in the first place because the real 3nm chip technology, known as N3E, was delayed until 2024, and Apple wanted it sooner, so that's how the N3B node came to be, which turned out to be extremely expensive with very poor yields, and it's lithographically incompatible with the rest of TSMC's planned line of N3 nodes, which is N3E, N3P, and N3X. So it's in the best interest for both Apple and TSMC to shut down the N3B chip line as soon as possible, which in my opinion will be the spring of 2025, and then TSMC will fully switch over to making N3E chips, which they'll also be selling to basically every other company out there, including Qualcomm, Google, and more. Now, because of all of this, I believe that Apple knew a full year and a half in advance that the M3 family of chips would be short-lived and intentionally absent on any product that has a longer than 1 year update lifespan, because if you think about it, they only gave the M3 chips to MacBooks that get updated very often, and here is the evidence for my theory. When the M3 MacBook Air came out a couple of months ago, I was really confused that Apple didn't take that opportunity to also update the Mac Mini at the same time, but now I know that Apple intentionally skipped the M3 chip upgrade. Why? Well, because the Mac Mini is usually on a longer update cycle, so it would continue to be sold after the spring 2025 deadline, so Apple decided to wait for the M4 chip built on the longer lasting mainstream N3E node. This also fully explains why Apple skipped the M3 chip for the new iPad Pro and gave it the M4 chip, since it usually only gets updated every 1.5 years. And going even further, it explains why Apple gave the new iPad Air the old M2 chip instead of the M3, since that device is also on a 1.5-year timeline. And it even explains why the Vision Pro headset got the M2 chip months after the M3 chip was already launched, which didn't make sense at the time, but now it does because Apple plans to sell that headset for years. But the nail in the coffin evidence is when we look at the M3 Max chip's die and see that Apple didn't even include the Ultra Fusion connector on the bottom like we saw on the M1 Max and the M2 Max dies, which is used to create the Ultra chip. And since chip design usually happens years in advance, Apple has known for at least a full year and a half that they would completely skip the M3 Ultra chip altogether, so they removed the Ultra Fusion connector at the bottom to save silicon space, which helps save money. And this actually matches up to a leak from TrendForce earlier this year when they said that the new Mac Studio will be getting updated at WWDC this year with a new Ultra chip that apparently will be built on TSMC's new N3E process instead of the regular N3B, which is a massive hint at the M4 Ultra chip coming at WWDC. And the final piece of evidence is that Apple is planning to create servers using M2 Ultra chips for AI processing, and then later upgrading them to M4 Ultra chips, completely skipping over the M3 Ultra since they obviously knew they wouldn't be making that chip. But if you look into it deeper, I believe Apple's using M2 Ultra chips for the servers because no one is buying them right now, which comes back to the original issue. I don't think that the current Mac Studio and Mac Pro are selling very well because the M3 Max MacBook Pro is faster. And I don't believe that Apple will leave these high-end desktops in this terrible position for an additional year after WWDC next month, so here is my theory. I believe that Apple will release at least 2 desktop machines at WWDC, both of which coming with the M4 Ultra chip, so it's likely gonna be the Mac Studio and the Mac Pro. The only problem is that Mark Gurman very strongly believes they won't get updated until the middle of next year, since he keeps reiterating it every week, so maybe he knows something that we don't. But if he's right, Apple would be shooting themselves in the foot, and I will consider it a massive fail on their part if they truly leave the Mac Studio and Mac Pro with chips that are 2 generations behind for another year. But if we do end up getting these high-end M4 Ultra Max next month, it means that they'll also reveal the M4 Max chip for the low-end Mac Studio, which means they may as well reveal the M4 Pro chip at the same time, going into a new Mac Mini, which will come with the M4 chip at the base price. So there's a chance they'll essentially reveal the entire M4 family of chips at WWDC next month, which is something I kind of sort of predicted or guessed on Twitter back in April, but Very importantly, they will only be going into desktop Macs to help boost sales of higher profit machines, and they won't be giving these M4 family chips to the MacBooks until later in the fall, since people buy MacBooks all the time regardless of the chip because they are in high demand. And yes, this would confirm that Apple is finally reversing their chip strategy and giving their best new chips to the most expensive desktop Macs first, before bringing them down to their mid-range MacBook Pros, and then a few months after that, down to the consumer MacBook Airs, which would finally solve the issue that we have right now with the M3 Max MacBook Pro outperforming the M2 Ultra Mac Pro that came out only 6 months before the M3 Max. But with the new reverse strategy, the high-end Mac Studio and Mac Pro, which have the highest profit margins, will basically always be faster than the 16-inch MacBook Pro, which only get the new Max chip a few months after. And I believe that this new strategy will begin at WWDC with the introduction of the M4 Ultra chip. And if I'm wrong, I want what Apple's having because they've completely gone off the rocker. So if you enjoyed this video, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and click the circle above to subscribe for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.